Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Make Your Mind. This is the Saturday night sculpture premiere. Thank you all for watching and showing up to this premiere. Hello to all of you who are watching this live, and also hello to all of you watching this after live. If you want to, just tune in next Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you'll catch the next one. But hey, let's start on this one, shall we? The sculpture that I previewed on Wednesday was actually going to be my first sort of entrance, for me anyway, back into the Fallout franchise. And I'm starting off with a bang. I am making quite possibly one of the most famous and also infamous creatures of the entire series. Starting out as a humble Jackson Chameleon, using experiments, the United States military was looking for a solution to close quarters combat, and they did not want to put any more soldiers in harm's way. So, with this being the Fallout universe, they didn't turn to robots, which they already had. They didn't turn to a new type of weapon, per se. This is the Fallout universe, people. They went into Crazy Town and decided to come up with this creature that I will be showcasing today. This is going to be my sculpture. So for viewers and subscribers alike, may I introduce the Deathclaw. Look at this. Like I said in the Wednesday preview, I was going to be making a glowing Deathclaw, which is one of my favorite versions. And the glowing Deathclaw is essentially glowing because of, well, it's being over-irradiated. It's too much radiation. So there's little parts of it that are sort of glowing with the outward radiation the body can barely contain. Look at the face. It's got the massive horns. And to think that at one point this was in fact a Jackson Chameleon that was mutated with scientific experimentation as to be used by the United States military as a means basically for close quarters combat, which these Deathclaws, they're huge. They're 3 times the size of a human being. And especially in the irradiated wastes, whether you're talking about the Capital Wasteland, New Vegas, the New California Republic, or the Commonwealth, the Deathclaws are feared all around. Mainly because of these. The claws themselves. These claws are truly terrifying, to say the least. But with that, let's go ahead and do some background, shall we? Let me put you down right here. Let's talk about the Deathclaw, shall we? For those of you who don't know what the Deathclaw is, here's a little bit of the origin story. Originally engineered before the Great War by the US government as a cheap replacement to human troops during combat operations, Deathclaws were derived from a mixed animal stock, primarily the popular Jackson's Chameleon, which is basically what it was based on, and just heavy mutation from there. Although the project was successfully in creating a ferocious predator capable of surviving on its own in the wild, no references exist of them ever being deployed on the battlefield, not even once. After the Great War, Deathclaws escaped into the wild from their containment facility and quickly spread across the continent, because they are just so formidable, and they're based on reptiles, so, I mean, you could say that, they're cold-blooded, they wouldn't work well, but you gotta remember, in the wastes, everything is irradiated and hotter than usual, so it'd be very easy for reptiles to thrive, especially if they learn to live with the radiation. See, after the Great War, Deathclaws escaped into the wild and spread across the continent. The Enclave, which is one of the factions in the Fallout universe, had no hand in the Deathclaw's creation, so far as the Appalachian Enclave's Research Division knows, which is in Fallout 76. Let's see here. So as far as the Appalachian Enclave's Research Division knows, but they do not But they do note that the genetic manipulation looks similar to their own projects, which you would have to play Fallout 76 to understand what that means. The creatures that have been manipulated in the past, especially when it comes to the FEV, or the Forced Evolutionary Virus, which, let's see here. I will talk about that in just a second. Eventually, they were refined by the Masters through genetic manipulation, which was in the very first Fallout game. The Master was a collective consciousness of both biological creatures, human beings, and technology. And he was basically responsible for creating the perfected Deathclaw that we all know and scream and run away from today in the game. It was refined through genetic manipulation and the Forced Evolutionary Virus, which is also responsible for the super mutants, which could be a sculpture in the future, especially the super mutant behemoth. That actually would be a fun one to make. Specifically, maybe I like the one that I always like to talk about is Swan. But if you don't know about that, just look up Swan from Fallout 4 and you'll understand what I mean. But let's see here. Let's continue on. Let's see. Because initial reports were limited to a series of isolated nests, Deathclaws were viewed as legendary creatures by the various inhabitants of Southern California, which was the new California Republic. However, the population in the Boneyard, where they were, was keenly aware of their existence, and as a single den mother and her offspring claimed the area between Downey and Norwalk around the year 2161, keeping the Gunrunners in a checkmate while terrorizing other communities in the region. And that was one of the first reported Deathclaw nests that was ever found in the Fallout universe, was over there in Southern California. Their gradual spread throughout the wasteland raised awareness of their existence until they entered common consciousness as a lethal predator. As stated above, the Enclave eventually continued their research projects started before the war, developing intelligent Deathclaws by use in hostile environments around the year 2235. On May 17th, 2242, the first successful pack was dropped into Vault 13 to cloak the presence of the Enclave and their abduction of the dwellers within. So the Enclave actually was able to train Deathclaws using technology, essentially basically brain control. And you'll see trained Enclave Deathclaws actually in the game Fallout 3. You will see them quite a bit. And a lot of times they're held in cages, and they're also they have these weird contraptions on their head which kind of block their vision, just to sort of keep them focused on whatever the Enclave tries to task them with, well, basically ripping to shreds. Let's see here. The first successful pack, 13, okay, let me go back. Following their first combat test, the Deathclaws broke free of their Enclave masters, becoming far more intelligent than anyone could foresee. Oh yeah. They began developing a unique culture as masters, becoming far more intelligent than anyone. Oh, hang on. I said that again. They began developing a unique culture as the first known non-humanoid sentient beings in history. However, their intelligence was discovered by Dr. Schreiber of Navarro, whose report led to the extermination of intelligent Deathclaws with extreme prejudice. Subsequent experimentation involved the aforementioned domestication units, although by the end of the 23rd century, those were disbanded. Within good reason. These creatures, they were created by the pre-war, or created by the Great War U.S. military in order to be a solution to close-quarter combat. And now the Deathclaws that we know today, now there are many versions. Of course, you have the baby Deathclaws, you have the standard Deathclaws, you also have the legendary Deathclaws, you have the alpha Deathclaws, the matriarch Deathclaws, you also have, you also have the legendary Deathclaws, the glowing Deathclaws like this one you see here, which has the glow from the radiation, the mythical Deathclaws, the albino Deathclaws, which are pure white, and in fact the Chameleon Deathclaw. And the Chameleon Deathclaw is the most dangerous one of all the games, mainly because it has the ability to change colors and actually blend into its environment, just like the DNA from its Jackson Chameleon base. And it's so cool that Bethesda actually put that in the game. as far as this being a creature and sort of paying tribute to what the creature is actually based on. Let's talk about a little biology here. Deathclaws are large carnivorous bipedal reptilian species designed for maximum lethality, as you can see. The choice to make them bipedal was natural, as bipedalism raises their head, providing a greater field of vision and thus improving the ability to detect targets and resources from long distances. So essentially it started out on all fours and then evolved to walk on two legs. And of course the claws themselves are very, very front and heavy, so you really got to be careful with those. The caveat is that the Deathclaw is not as fast as the quadrupedal animal, although this is a largely academic concern. The ripping musculature of the Deathclaw provides it with superior strength, excellent speed, and incredible resilience in most combat situations. In fact, these things can basically be bullet sponges. You could be shooting at these things with all kinds of weapons, whether they be standard bullets or lasers or microfusion cells or fusion cores or whatever you can use, whether it be energy-based weapons or actual kinetic weapons. These things will survive almost anything. Deathclaws communicate with each other in packs using growls and body language, though they are also capable of mimicking human voices like a parrot if their intelligence is artificially increased. So, yeah, apparently they can also mimic human speech, which, you see that? That can mimic human speech? That's terrifying. That actually, I did not know. Wow, that's actually terrifying. And let's talk about the main attribute of the Deathclaw itself that gives it its name, the claws themselves. Their strength is further magnified by their claws. Owing to their lineage, the Deathclaw has opposable thumbs, though an additional 2 fingers were coded into the genome from the Jackson Chameleon for a total of 5 fingers on each hand. Each terminates in a sharp talon that allows the reptile to wound and kill with frightening efficiency. A single swipe is capable of bisecting an unarmored human in seconds. I like that word, bisecting. Deathclaw hide is extremely tough, providing an excellent defense against blunt and edged weapons. Firearms and energy weapons are reliable tools for taking Deathclaws down. Although, depending on how big they are, they can take a lot of damage. Their defense is also enhanced by horns and dorsal spikes, making melee combat a very dangerous proposition, mainly because of just how fast these creatures are. You have these horns, and sometimes the horns can face slightly different directions. Sometimes they're more forward, sometimes they face up, sometimes they're down, sometimes they're curved or even curving in different directions. And it's all down to basically how irradiated the environment that they're living in is, for the most part. And by the way, for the sculpture, don't mind this. This is actually just to help hold it up. Just so that, because with a bipedal creature, you have to have something underneath of it a little bit so that way it can stand up. There we go. However, while they are difficult opponents, their keen senses can be used against them. Loud noises and bright lights, such as emitted by flares, can be used to deter Deathclaw's advance or even keep it at bay. So that's actually something to consider it. So flashing lights can actually deter them for a little bit, and also flares. But your best deterrent is distance. When you're in the game, especially on the lower levels, do not engage a Deathclaw. And if you see more than one, really don't engage one. These things are truly... they're masters of their environment. And the environment that they were sort of mutated into. These things are essentially the top predator of the wastes, minus maybe something like maybe a Scorch Beast or a Wendigo Colossus or even a Mirelurk Queen. But these things are basically, they're faster than any of those. I'd say the Scorch Beast is probably deadlier than this, but Scorch Beast, as far as we know, is only found in Appalachia. So there you have it. This is my sculpture of the Deathclaw with a little bit of commentary telling you and explaining exactly what the Deathclaw is. So with that, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy videos like this, don't forget to leave a like down below, and remember to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss the next video. For the next premiere, I have to say, I I'm actually going to be leading towards it, and it's going to be big. My next premiere is actually going to be Shin Godzilla. Since I already made another Godzilla, I'm going to be making the Toho Godzilla version of the latest movie, Shin Godzilla, which is just the ever mutating version. And on top of that, I may have said this on other videos, but I will be doing all of the forms, and you will get to see those. And so with that, that's the end of the video. Once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see all of you next Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for my sculpture of Shin Godzilla.